Hi everyone, this is Ray, or some of you might know me as Tiki With Ray, and today I am at the Bamboozled Bungalow with my good friend Tom. And today we're going to talk about something that may not necessarily be considered tiki, but it could be though. We're going to be talking about phosphate drinks, is that how you would say it?
Yeah, phosphate fountain drinks.
Phosphate fountain drinks, and well, Tom, what exactly are phosphate fountain drinks?
Well, back in the 19th century, well before tiki, soda fountains were more of a thing, a big thing actually.
Soda fountain? What do you mean by soda fountain?
So, like where you go into a place that's specialized in making, any of dozens or maybe even hundreds of different sodas. Cherry, like a cherry phosphate was popular. It was made of cherry bark, not so much the juice. It had all sorts of flavors. Eventually.
When you say soda, are you talking about the same thing as like Coca-Cola?
No.
Or no? Okay.
Not at all.
What do you mean by a soda?
Eventually, the big name sodas we know now drove the soda fountains pretty much out of business.
Oh.
Whereas before you had people behind the counter who were probably as skilled as any decent bartender, and it could make any of a bunch of different things on the spot. It was replaced by, of course, pre-packaged syrups and standardized products that were the same, pretty much the country or the world over.
So what you're saying is, like, instead of a bar,
yeah,
you would go into the what would the name of these places be called?
Maybe a soda fountain.
A soda fountain.
They often shared space with pharmaceutical or pharmacy type outlets.
Really?
Because
okay.
At least initially, some of the ingredients were felt to serve both ends. That cherry phosphate I mentioned.
Yeah.
Well, that's made. Cherry bark is a mild anti-inflammatory. So, a lot of the ingredients were thought to be medicinal. And there's some. Yeah, that's a matter of debate. When you get the big soda companies in, they were definitely medicinal. Coca-Cola, as everyone probably knows, is called that because there's a bit of cocaine in that baby, or at least there was before the Pure Food and Drug Act.
So that is true.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
And so 1905, 1906, with Pure Food and Drug Act, they couldn't put cocaine in and make people into Coca-Cola fiends anymore. So they had to switch their marketing tactics. 7-Up was...
So then they just concentrated on sugar and caffeine.
Yeah, 7-Up was up because it contained lithium.
What?
Yes.
Did it really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so eventually the big names edged out the neighborhood soda fountain. And those.
But did these sodas like that you talk about? Do they have phosphate in them?
Some did.
Some did.
Some did. You could find anything, raw eggs, malt powder, which is, of course, somewhat nutritious.
Yeah.
Milk, for a milkshake, might also have phosphate in it. And getting to phosphate. Okay, so, all sorts of syrups and things at their disposal. Oftentimes homemade. I haven't had time to assemble homemade syrups, so we're working with some nice bottled ones here.
Oh, that's okay.
I tend to prefer Monine, but, that's just me.
Well, let's start from the very beginning. What exactly is phosphate?
So, acid phosphate doesn't sound like something you'd want to drink.
No, it sounds poisonous.
Yes. As a matter of fact, it isn't. And what it was used for is that, especially in the further reaches of the U.S., because remember, shipping wasn't then what it is today, they had trouble with citrus fruits going bad. Typically, you'd add sour to drinks by adding lemon or lime or something like that.
Yeah.
But they have a shelf life, and they were harder to get and sometimes expensive.
Yeah.
What this did, it did two jobs. First of all, if you didn't want to add any flavor to your soda when you're making it sour, you had all the flavors you wanted, and you wanted to have that same flavor and just wanted it a little tartar, you'd use this, because this is totally neutral. This is
you're right. I don't smell anything.
Right. This is also completely shelf stable. So unlike limes and lemons and all that, you're not going to mildew. This can sit on the shelf for years.
Okay.
And if you need to add a sour note to a soda fountain drink, you throw in a half teaspoon of this, and there you go. Your orange or your lemon might be added to the flavor of the syrup itself, so you don't necessarily need to put add real citrus to make it sour.
So what exactly does this add to the drink?
It just makes it sour.
Makes it sour.
It adds tart.
It adds tart. Okay.
Yeah, that's all it does. It adds tart. It's neutral. It's shelf stable.
Okay. When before we go any further, I'm just curious. So what you're saying is there were places that you would go, and you would go in and get these drinks.
Yes.
And that would be, is that where the term soda jerk came from?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And the person would literally make these drinks.
Yes.
Now, two things. Were they alcoholic?
They generally weren't, but they could be. If you look at some of the syrups in the working manual here, some of them are in fact fix the pumps.
Now, what's this? This is like a recipe book or something?
It's a fairly technical manual. Yes, it's a recipe book. It describes the various ingredients used back then, of which this is only one. It describes a bit of the history. It has all these syrups and compounds and tinctures and all sorts of stuff.
But normally what you're saying is that these were served not at a bar.
No. No,
it was
and in fact, that's important to the temperance movement, which is kind of funny. The temperance movement at the time, Prohibition hadn't happened yet. It was like, oh yeah, they're extolling the virtues of a soda fountain over the bar because everybody's get these people all in a soda fountain instead of the bar, and this is goodness. Well, some of them still contained alcohol, maybe not a lot, maybe some. You might have a wine-based syrup, for instance. You might have something heavily tincturized, which is going to have some alcohol in it because of the tincture.
So my second question is this.
Yeah.
Who was drinking these? So this wasn't for children then?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it was, okay.
Most of these were kids.
Okay, so essentially all ages.
The vast majority were non-alcoholic.
Okay.
The problem, of course, is where you get into the ones with the special ingredients in them.
Yep.
And so on the one hand, you have the temperance movement, extolling the virtues of the soda fountain, and in fact things like, Coca-Cola creeping in there, and people who had to have their 6 to 8 Cokes a day because so it gets a sort of interesting dichotomy going. Or in the worst case scenario, I suppose, for them, you get people loading up on Coca-Cola before they go to work and then hitting the bar after they get off work. But hey.
No, it's a good question. So when a prohibition happened,
yes,
did this raise the level of these type of drinks or not? Or
I think it did for a bit because
or did people like, no, we want alcohol?
No. Well, I don't think it hurt these drinks. It may have helped them a little.
Yeah.
Like I say, they're frequently complex. They're not as sweet as, in the most part, as modern soda fountain drinks. So they don't get so cloying so quickly, and can drink more of it. Some of them seem kind of sort of good for you. The ones with the eggs, the malted milk powder, or actual milk, or things of actual nutritional value.
There's so many different types of flavors that you can make with these drinks.
Oh yes.
Like they really run the gamut. And you were saying that there are some that are more tropical.
Yes.
So what are you gonna? You're gonna make us a couple. What are you gonna?
Yeah.
So what are you gonna?
We're gonna get back to this isn't technically tiki, but you can certainly make tropically flavored drinks, and they had a few. The entertainingly named Arctic Phosphate, which is it's like 4 flavors, at least 3 of which are tropical. The Siberian Flip, which is mostly is tropical fruit flavored. And we'll make a Cherade, which is at least cherry and orange, which is, the name is descriptive. It's not all that tropical, but hey, what the heck.
Well, this is my thinking. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there in the tiki community that doesn't drink. They just don't drink.
Right.
And my attitude is that if there's any alternatives or drinks that people can enjoy that are non-alcoholic and yet still tropical tasting, this is great. So say if you don't drink, or say you have kids that they want to partake in the tiki tiki thing, but you're not going to feed them rum.
No, trust me.
These would be perfect drinks to give them.
Yeah, trust me. The teenagers love this stuff. Yeah. Mostly I run the Phosphate soda fountain for them. And I say they're not terribly sweet, and you don't feel too bad about having more than one because so you're good at the raw egg, great, let's do it. Yeah, you're drinking a raw egg and some malted milk powder in it. Sure, there's some sugar syrup, but it sounds kind of like breakfast.
You know what? You make up this drink, you throw it in a tiki mug. No one's going to know the difference.
Exactly.
So let's go. Let's. Okay. So what are we going to make first?
We're going to start with an Arctic Phosphate. Entertainingly named because it contains, well, look at this. It has pineapple, it has vanilla, it gets its citrus from orange, and its non-tropical flavor, strawberry. And then we add the phosphate. And I left my teaspoon someplace else. Ha! And that isn't even a teaspoon recipe. It says 3 dashes. Like you'd use bitters. Wouldn't want to shake it with the soda water in it. That makes it's entertaining but messy. So, soda water's next. We have our soda stream here, some pre-chilled, pre-measured water in the bottle. And we have an Arctic phosphate. Thoroughly tropical tasting from the North Pole.
So this is the Arctic phosphate.
Yes, it is.
And you're using just carbonated water?
Yeah. Carbonated water, acid phosphate, and 4 different syrups.
And could you use club soda if you wanted to, or seltzer water, or no?
You could. It changes things slightly. Club soda has a small saline content, which most people don't notice, but you know.
Okay, so that would affect it. And this is literally carbonated water, and you use the soda stream to create it. So let's try this. Let's try this. Oh, that's great.
You like that?
Yeah.
Okay,
try it?
cool, sure.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's good, and it's pretty tropical tasting.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Hawaiian punch with a little.
With like carbonation and stuff like that.
Yeah,
This is the most carbonated Hawaiian punch there ever is. And the cool thing is like, it's sweet, but it's not overly sweet.
Right.
It's like just sweet enough.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of balance going on, even though it's a sweetened soda drink.
Wow, that is good. That's really good.
Next phosphate soda is going to be the Siberian Flip. Also oddly tropical with pineapple and orange and Angostura bitters. The bitters are applied gently. And 1 ounce each of the orange and the pineapple. A teaspoon of acid phosphate. And there we are, a Siberian Flip. But the palate should be distinctly tropical.
It totally is.
Yeah.
Yeah, try that. It actually has a lot of bite. Has a lot more bite to it than I thought.
Yeah, that's refreshing.
Yeah, it's very refreshing. And the cool thing is like you can totally give this. Like if I didn't drink alcohol, throw this in a tiki mug, I think I'd be completely fine. It's bitter enough. There's just enough bitterness, just enough bite that gives it like okay, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't play like a kid drink.
Not at all. No, it's actually very good.
Yeah, which is oftentimes my frustration or argument with some of the non-alcoholic options is so frequently they're not complex, they're too sweet, they're just like it's hard to get a good one. This is very, very good, Tom. This is awesome. The third drink is going to be the Cherade. One of the more descriptive names, actually, after the Arctic phosphate and Siberian Flip, both of which were tropical. The Cherade is probably the least tropical, and in some ways the simplest. Going back to our orange syrup. This time, of course, we're pulling cherry. Well, the percentage of this is not, so I'm guessing this will have a tart bite to it too.
What is this drink?
This is a cherried phosphate.
The cherried phosphate.
Yeah, a descriptive, unimaginative name, but yeah, it's orange, it's cherry, it's phosphate.
And I noticed that you put a lot of phosphate in this one compared to the other ones.
Yeah, this one had a full teaspoon for a relatively small soda, so I'm guessing it's going to be on the tart side.
All right, let me give it a shot. Oh, it's tart. It's good, though. In fact...
Oh, do you have a favorite?
I think this would probably be the best one to serve as a tiki drink.
Really?
Yeah, because it has a lot of bite to it. Here, try
Okay,
it.
sure. It's the only one without pineapple or a couple other like tiki-ish things that are normally associated with being tiki elements, but...
No, I'm thinking more along the lines of like a Singapore sling or something like that.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, replace grenadine or fashionola.
Yeah, yeah.
And you got something that could definitely mimic that. This is a great drink.
Okay, well, thank you.
This actually has a lot of bite, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And that's part of the point of these. They're not supposed to be syrupy, sweet. They're supposed to be, refreshing summertime beverages.
And you were saying that these places would be in like pharmacies?
Pharmacies and soda fountains, at least initially, tended to share space because they, in some cases, shared ingredients. The bark extracts, the bitters, stuff like that. Some of these things were felt to have pharmaceutical applications. Some probably actually did, but for the most part, as in the case of alcoholic beverages, where a lot of the bitters were originally intended as medicines and ended up being co-opted into bartending, a lot of the old school pharmaceuticals ended up being co-opted into making soda fountain drinks.
It's a shame that this has gone out of fashion, because I think these drinks are great, and there's definitely a talent to create these.
Yeah, it requires more or less the same skill set as bartending. You're still making syrups, you're still making tinctures, you're making the same kinds of stuff, just different flavor profiles, and yeah.
Now, have you ever tried adding alcohol to these drinks?
I haven't actually.
Because I wonder how that would be.
I don't know.
Because maybe this is like a whole new world of alcoholic drinks, because I've never had any carbonated mixed cocktails. I really haven't.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. Not saying experimented with. Usually I'm, serving them as given.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them, at least that one resource fixed the pumps I've been using, that you could make them for years and not run out of new recipes to try.
This stuff's great. I'm so glad that you turned me on to these. Now, if people want to Google, they would be called phosphate fountain drinks.
Phosphate sodas.
Phosphate sodas.
Yeah, they could Google this. Horsford's is maybe the only brand of this stuff. So Horsford's acid phosphate. The operative book you need is Fix the Pumps, which I put. What's it by? Darcy O'Neill. Who also pops up occasionally in tiki circles, actually. Yeah. Respected in his craft. And with this bottle and that book, you can have also a few syrups, whether you buy them or make them yourself, per the specs in here. You could have a pretty good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tom, thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to go finish this drink.
Okay. I don't need that. I do need that. I don't need that. I do need that. Strawberry, vanilla, pineapple, and... Oh, I do need that. Orange.
Hey gang, this is Tiki with Ray, and I just want to say thank you very much for checking out my video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see more episodes, click on the subscribe button. And if you liked the video, give it a like. That would mean a lot to me. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave a comment in the comment section below.